Director, Mrs. Joy Griffith, Director of School Supervision, Mr. Mervyn Sambucharan, Director, Division of Educational Research and Evaluation, Mr. Corey Belfon, Director of Communications and Technology, Ministry of Education staff, members of the media, and our audience viewing us online. Good morning and welcome to today's press conference. My name is Rodolph Philip Simmons, Communications Manager at the Ministry of Education. Today is SEA Day, and I know a couple of us on this side at least have been up since about 11 o'clock holding our breaths for 12:01 this morning. Some, of course, are wearing it better than others. I see our ITT director wears it very well. But as is the practice, immediately after the official release of the SEA results, which went to schools at 10 a.m. this morning, the ministry provides an analysis of this result. This morning, Education Minister, Dr. the Honourable Nyan will provide that comprehensive overview of the 2022 SEA results, after which the panel would field your questions. I now hand over to the Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And good morning to the Executive of the Ministry of Education, and welcome members of the media, listeners and viewers to this morning's press conference, where as usual, we take the opportunity to congratulate all our students who wrote SEA 2022 and to provide some examination statistics. For the first year, parents and guardians were able to access the electronic version of their child's results via the SEA portal on the Ministry's website from 12:01 a.m. today, July 1st, 2022. Allow me to take this opportunity to congratulate the Ministry's team. A lot of hard work went into this, and I am sure the public appreciated the efforts. There were a total of approximately 315,000 hits to the SEA portal. The ICT and communications team were available to provide real-time guidance and support to the few members of the public which were experiencing difficulties. No technical issues were reported, and even now, persons continue to access the SEA online portal. It is intended that this portal will replace the paper-based mode of results. However, for 2022, parents must access the hard copy or paper-based version to register their children for secondary schools in 2022. A total of 19,079 students wrote the SEA in 2022, of which 51% were male and 48% were female. In 2022, the SEA comprised 3 subjects, namely English Language Arts, Writing, Mathematics, and English Language Arts. English Language Arts, Writing, and English Language Arts, which are in the same cognate area, are combined and together contribute the same percentage to the final score as mathematics. The assessment framework for SEA was modified in 2021 due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the shift to the online mode of schooling. There was a reduction in the number of items in the mathematics and English Language Arts assessments, and the type of writing for the English Language Arts writing assessment was provided to schools beforehand. The time for the examination remained the same as in previous years for each assessment. This assessment framework will continue into 2023. Students were assigned to secondary schools based on the established placement policy, which comprised 6 criteria: order of merit, choice of school, gender, principals 20% selection for denominational schools, residence, and multiple birth. Students who were unsuccessful in obtaining a score sufficient for placement into one of the 4 schools of their choosing were assigned based on their place of residence and availability of spaces in the schools within their community of residence. If spaces were unavailable in the nearest school, then they were placed in the next nearest school. Students who were born after August 31st, 2009, or were less than 13 years old, and whose average score was 30% or less, but had not previously sat the SEA, so were sitting for the first time, will be required to repeat this year and resit the SEA in 2023. Students who have obtained a composite score of 30% or below and who were born before August 31st, 2009, or who were doing the assessment for a second time were placed in a secondary school based on choice or residence. In 2022, the mean mathematics score is 41.9. Similarly, the mean English language arts writing score was 44.3, and the mean English language arts score was 44.39. These scores represent a decrease from 2021, where the scores were 46.9, 56.2, and 56.6 respectively. In 2022, the performance in SE was also analyzed according to the percentage of students attaining three important thresholds. The percentage of students scoring above 50% in the SEA in 2022 was 37.06%. This reflects a decrease from 2020, where the levels was 63%, and 2021, where the level was 52.49%. The number and percentage of students that were placed, and I'll use the percentages, that were placed in secondary schools but scored under 50%. In 2020, it was 34.8, 2021, 44.9, and in 2022, 52.6. In 2022, the percentage of students scoring 30% or below was 27.81, compared to 17.7 in 2021 and 11% in 2020. The percentage of students that were placed but scored under 30%, placed in secondary schools scoring under 30%, in 2020 was 8.3, in 2021, 11.8, and in 2022, 17.5. The percentage of students scoring above 90% in 2022 was 0.47, compared to 2021, where this was 3%. What these statistics show is a clear reduction in achievement, and that certainly can be linked to the learning loss which has been predicted globally and locally due to the lack of face-to-face schooling. This particular cohort who wrote SE in 2022 would have been engaged in online learning for the past 2 years. They would have been into their second term of Standard 3 when schools closed. This endorses the need for the government to have returned students to the physical classroom, despite the challenges, to give them their best chance at educational success. In 2022, the number of students passing for their first choice was 21.6%, as compared to 20.2% in 2021 and 19.1% in 2020. And the number of students that have to resit SE in 2022, the percentage, is 10.3% of those who wrote, as compared to 2021, which was 5.8%, and 2020, where the level was 2.6%. And let me say a special word to the parents of children who have been asked to resit the SE. This is another chance for them to gain mastery of fundamental subjects that they would need for life. So it is disappointing, I know, and a number of parents have reached out to me to express their disappointment, but your students, your children are being given a second chance to be able to acquire much needed skills. So at this time it's difficult, but I urge you to give them hope, give them encouragement, and let them know that this is not the end. They are better for having done the exam, and now they have that experience, and encourage them as they sit the exam again in 2023. The SAA is a competitive placement examination, the primary purpose of which is to secure for our primary school students places in the secondary school system. Students are placed in secondary schools on the basis of their scores in the examination. Because of the importance of examination scores, a review process was instituted to allow students who were not placed in their secondary school of choice an opportunity to have their scripts relooked. The review process offers to students the prospect of being transferred to their secondary school of choice if their score is upgraded. The Ministry of Education has, for some time, been publicly acknowledging the top SCA performers and schools based on preliminary examination scores. In so doing, the Ministry of Education has been sharing with the public the preliminary examination scores of the top SCA performers. The intention behind this public practice was to inspire and openly commend and celebrate our nation's young scholars, and to encourage others who are learning of this and hearing about these top performances to achieve similar success. However, as recent events have shown, this public practice has also begun to result in less than desirable and wholly unintended results. In particular, this public practice has resulted in students who have performed admirably, even to the extent of securing places in their secondary school of first choice, to have their meritorious performances overshadowed by an unhealthy competitiveness, often driven by parents, over relative examination scores which are preliminary. The Ministry of Education is extremely concerned that this public practice now has the potential to cause our young scholars to be placed under undue pressure to secure a high ranking in the SCA examination based on preliminary examination scores, and to diminish their sense of self-worth by reference to infinitesimal differences among such scores. The Ministry of Education is concerned that the end result of such a practice, which had a laudable aim, has been disfigured by changing societal attitudes into a practice that now produces great anxiety, negativity, and mental distress for our children. For this reason, the government has taken the decision that, with effect from this year, the Ministry of Education will no longer be making public announcements of student rankings at the SCA based on preliminary examination scores. Rather, and with effect from 2022, the ranking list of students' SCA scores will only be finalized after the review period has elapsed, and upon written request only, consideration will be given by the Ministry of Education to the provision of the final rank to parents or guardians individually and privately. With the closure of schools in March 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, students were engaged in online schooling in their homes. While online schooling provided a critical level of educational continuity, it is globally recognized that it is not a substitute for face-to-face school. One of the most deleterious effects of prolonged school closure is the learning loss experienced by students, especially those at the early childhood and primary levels. To ascertain the level of learning loss, the Curriculum Planning and Development Division of the Ministry of Education provided a diagnostic test for administration by teachers in mathematics and English language arts in October 2021. The results showed clear learning gaps with a marked increase in students achieving less than 30% in the SCA 2022 examination as well. This general decrease in performance reflects the global predictions of the learning loss and decreased performance of students associated with physical school closure. Over 9,000 students have scored less than 50% in the 2022 SCA, and therefore they will not be adequately prepared for the secondary school system. There is an urgent need to provide remedial instruction during the July-August vacation period in a physical setting to allow students to devote more time to acquiring competencies which will be essential for solid foundational education in the fundamental areas of mathematics, English language arts, and English language arts writing. As such, the Cabinet has approved a vacation revision program which will run for 4 weeks during the period July 18th to August 12th, 2022 at 26 secondary schools in a face-to-face format. This program targets 9,000 students and requires 600 teachers to be recruited from the primary and secondary school system. An emphasis will be placed on small class sizes of no more than 15 students per class, and these classes will be conducted between 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. daily. Parents of students requiring these classes will be specifically advised that their child is expected to register from July 11th to 15th at a school closest to their home. Prior to the commencement of the program, officers of the Curriculum Planning and Development Division of the Ministry of Education will provide training to the teachers in mathematics and English language arts based on the analysis of the SEA 2022 performance. The vacation revision program will be coordinated by the principal of the respective secondary school. It is recognized that this vacation program will not be enough in most cases to assist our students to have a successful secondary school experience. And Cabinet will be apprised next week of the Ministry of Education's plan for those 26 schools and how the educational attainment of these students will be managed. Attendance will be monitored at the Vacation Revision Program by the School Supervision and Management Division, while psychosocial support for both students and parents will be offered by the Student Support Services Division. The National Schools Dietary Services Limited will provide both breakfast and lunch for the students attending the Vacation Revision Program. Once again, the Ministry of Education extends thanks to all involved in the administration of the SEA and offers our congratulations to all students who wrote SEA 2022. Whatever the outcome, you are better and stronger for having taken up that challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. We now move to the question segment of the press conference. I'm going to ask that each media house present, the reporter identifies the media house and their name, and they ask one question, and we will go back to the start, so allowing every media house an opportunity to ask a question in the first round. Do we have a first question? Remember your name and media house, please.
Good morning, Carissa Lee from CNC3. This vacation revision program, do we have a budget? How much will it cost the government?
Yes, there is a budget. It should cost, if all the students turn out, approximately $10 million.
Next.
Minister, congratulations on the portal. I think it's the way forward. But a lot of people were wondering why 12:01. Students are sleeping, parents have work next morning. Would that be revised, as well as next year, would children still have to go to the schools to collect their slips?
The portal is open even now. So parents, there was no impetus for parents to access it at 12:01. But if you are an SEA parent, have you been an SEA parent? You might know that at 12:01, the night before results, you're not sleeping, and the children are hardly sleeping as well. So it gave them a chance. That was a time of very low traffic on the, lowest traffic on the internet as well. So it was available from then, but it's available even now. So if parents wanted to access it at any point in time from then, they had the ability to, and they did. It's intended that in 2023, we will just use the portal and not the paper base. That's the intention.
Yeah. Good morning, Madam Minister. The vacation program, so we assuming it's children who scored between 30% to 50%, we would assume, because the 30% would have to repeat the primary, but...
No, let me just clear that up. Not all persons who scored under 30% will repeat. Those who are a second chance, or they're under 13, would have to resit. But we actually have students placed in secondary schools. Over 3,000 students placed in secondary schools are scored under 30.
Sorry, that scored in there?
Under 30%.
Under, okay.
Yeah. So there are students who are placed, but scored under 30% and under 50%. Yes.
Right. Okay. I wanted to ask if you had got feedback, if you had like consulted any parents. You know, this whole vacation arrangement. You know how it is, transport, or will anybody be in the house? In fact, they may welcome it. Actually, I don't know. But have you got any feedback on, or have you consulted? Did you like consult, say, principals and say, well, how they may react to having the kids out for like a month? I mean, as I said, they may welcome it.
We spoke with the principals of the 26 schools this morning to get their feedback on it to ensure that they have also spoken to us previous to this and indicated that these are the kinds of things that they need to prepare these students for transition into the school, both mentally as well as in terms of their academics. And in terms of parents, that's why we have instituted that students can attend a school that's having it closest to their home. We understand that parents, may have the challenges with transport and so on. So it's closer to your home. Even if that's not the school that you have been assigned to, you can attend closest to your home. And that's why we are also ensuring that breakfast and lunch are provided for the students.
A clear reduction of achievements. What did you say could be the reason for that?
Very closely linked to the fact that these students have not been or were not in physical school since their second term of Standard 3. We have been visiting schools and speaking with principals, speaking with teachers, and they would have told you very clearly that the student you see and the work you see in many cases when the student comes to school is very different from what would have been submitted when they were at home. In many cases, parents would have helped students, and while this is admirable, it would not have allowed the teacher to see what exactly was happening. So you had children going into infants who were presenting good writing online, but when you got them in the classroom physically, you realized that there was a huge gap and these children were very far behind. And this is the same thing that mirrored in the Standard 5 students. When you visited school, spoke to teachers, they spoke about the fact that the students were not where they would have been had they been physical. So this was an outcome of COVID-19. It's a global phenomenon, learning loss. Students experience learning loss even during a normal vacation period, July, August. So imagine for being out of school for that time. And though online learning was the best that could be done at the time, I think we've been very clear since and throughout it all that online learning is not sufficient, especially for young children and their educational pursuits.
Mr. Douglas?
Right. I think we could kind of empathize with the thing with the results. I think, people saw what happened, and I think we can put ourselves in your shoes and understand. But on the other hand, parents will want to be able to gauge how the primary school is doing. If you're like a prospective parent, or how secondary schools are doing, is there any way that can be done? I mean, I know without all the ego thing of who's number one and who's behind by half a mark, it's just... But if there is any general way, because I think when I was very young, when the results day came out, they used to, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they used to even have the primary school that the child came from. So if you have St. Joseph Convent, you have the list of 200 children going there, and I believe going back far, we might have had the primary school they came from. But we should kind of, there's a thing of accountability and parents wanting to be able to scope out how schools are doing. So I'm wondering what would be left. For example, Freedom of Information Act, would that still be accessible for parents to file requests as to say how a secondary school is doing? I mean, there's a thing with private institutions when they run the advert, all saying 100% pass. A lot, if you look at these private little lessons places. So, accountability in line with a kind of healthy competitiveness. I'm just wondering.
Well, certainly the Freedom of Information Act is open to anyone that wants to send a request, and anything that is received in ministry, certainly we will treat it as it should be upon consideration of the request. So that's always open and free for persons to request.
Your ministry took the decision not to publicly announce, the top student this year, and I guess moving forward that will be what will happen. You said until the results are reviewed, the final results. When will that review period end, and when can, parents request to find out, how their children did if they were the top student?
Mid-August is the end of the review period. And let me just make a public service announcement. Until July 8th is the deadline to submit your requests for reviews. And I just want to emphasize, though, that any revealing of rank after the final results would be individually and privately. That's the consideration being given for parents who want to find out what their child's rank was.
Ladies and gentlemen, I take it we have no further questions. That being the case, I would like to thank the Honourable Minister and the head table for being with us today and providing the detailed overview of the SEA results 2022, for taking questions from the media. Again, I thank the media for their presence here today and the questions that they have put forward. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our press conference. Thank you very much, and please keep safe. Thank you.
Kids are home and dbesttoys.com is having a summer kickoff sale. Your kids can have a blast this vacation with the latest toys.